Before dawn on Friday, the 13th of October, 1307, soldiers acting for the King of France launched a secret attack. Their targets were not enemy troops, but the members of a powerful religious order, the Knights Templar. In a single shocking morning, hundreds of these warrior monks were arrested, their vast wealth and influence seemingly erased overnight. They were an order of knights sworn to protect pilgrims, who grew into the most powerful financial institution of the medieval world, only to vanish and leave behind a single burning question. Where did their legendary treasure go? By the end of this investigation, you will know the most credible theories about the fate of the Templar fortune, separating documented history from wild speculation. We will explore how a band of 9 knights became unimaginably rich, what their treasure might have truly been, and why its disappearance has captivated treasure hunters for centuries. What is the one lost secret from history you wish you could find? Their humble beginnings could not have predicted their staggering future. In the year 1119, 9 knights formed a new monastic order in Jerusalem, calling themselves the Poor Fellow Soldiers of Christ and the Temple of Solomon. Their mission was simple and dangerous: to protect the pilgrims traveling to the Holy City after the First Crusade. Dressed in their iconic white mantles adorned with a red cross, they were more than just warriors. They were monks sworn to vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience. So how did these 9 men, pledged to personal poverty, become the financial superpower of the medieval world? Their evolution was a masterclass in institutional growth. Kings and nobles, impressed by their dedication and military success, began donating vast tracts of land to the order across Europe. Soon, the Templars were not just a military force, but sprawling landowners, managing farms, vineyards, and entire villages. This agricultural output generated immense, steady wealth, but their true genius lay in financial innovation. They created a system that was, in effect, the first international bank. A pilgrim could walk into a Templar commandery in London and deposit his life savings. In return, he received a letter of credit, a piece of coded parchment. He could then travel to Jerusalem, unburdened by gold that would make him a target for thieves, and present his letter at the Templar fortress there to receive his funds. This service, a logistical miracle for its time, made them indispensable. They were the trusted intermediaries for everyone, from common pilgrims to kings. They managed the finances of the papacy, becoming the Vatican's personal bankers. They loaned vast sums to monarchs, including the very King of France, who would later turn on them. Their treasure was not merely a single chest of gold coins, but this entire financial network, a web of assets, loans, and liquid capital that stretched across continents. It was this unimaginable concentration of wealth and power, all held by an organization accountable only to the Pope, that would plant the seeds for their eventual destruction and fuel the legend of a hidden fortune for centuries to come. This immense financial power, however, created a shadow of resentment and fear. At the heart of the coming storm was King Philip IV of France, a monarch drowning in debt, much of it owed to the very knights who served as his bankers. He was a king who desired absolute control, and the Templars represented a state within a state, an entity with more liquid wealth and international influence than his own crown. His solution was not to repay his debts, but to erase them. Philip devised a plan of breathtaking audacity, one that would require the complicity of the highest authority in Christendom, Pope Clement V. Under intense pressure from the French king, the Pope reluctantly agreed to an investigation, giving Philip the legal cover he needed to move. The stage was set for one of history's most infamous betrayals. Before dawn on that fateful Friday, the 13th of October, 1307, sealed orders were opened by royal officials across France. They commanded the simultaneous arrest of every Knight Templar in the kingdom. The operation was a chilling success. Hundreds of men, from lowly sergeants to the order's Grand Master, Jacques de Molay, were seized from their beds, dragged in chains to prisons, and their properties confiscated by the crown. The charges read against them were designed to shock the medieval conscience: accusations of secret rituals, spitting on the cross, denying Christ, and worshipping a mysterious idol known as a Baphomet. To extract confessions for these outrageous claims, the king's inquisitors employed brutal torture. In the dark, damp dungeons, men who had vowed to endure hardship for their faith were subjected to the rack and the strappado, their bodies broken until they admitted to whatever their captors desired. These coerced confessions, broadcast publicly, provided the thin veneer of legitimacy Philip needed. He used them to justify seizing the Templars' vast assets in France, effectively pillaging the world's most sophisticated bank to fill his own empty coffers. But the treasure, the true heart of their wealth, was already slipping through his fingers. So what exactly was this treasure that King Philip failed to capture? The answer is far more complex than a single chest of gold, and its true nature is the very source of the legend. On the most practical level, the treasure was the literal, physical wealth that seemed to vanish. When the king's men stormed the Paris Temple, the Order's international headquarters and effectively the central bank of Europe, they expected to find vaults overflowing with gold and silver coin, gemstones, and bullion. Historical records suggest they found almost nothing. Where were the massive reserves of capital that funded nations? This immediate, tangible absence is the bedrock of the mystery. It proves that someone somewhere was tipped off and moved the liquid assets before the arrests, but the treasure's definition expands far beyond mere currency. Another compelling theory suggests the Templars guarded artifacts of unimaginable spiritual power. As protectors of the Holy Land, they had their headquarters on the Temple Mount in Jerusalem for years. Could they have discovered something during their excavations beneath the ruins of Solomon's temple? Speculation runs wild that they found and secretly transported the Ark of the Covenant, a chest said to contain the stone tablets of the Ten Commandments. Or perhaps their true charge was the Holy Grail, the cup used by Christ at the Last Supper. Possessing such a relic would have granted the Order immense prestige and, some would argue, a form of divine authority that rivaled the Pope himself in Rome. This leads to the most radical and enduring theory, that the real treasure was not gold or a physical object, but forbidden knowledge. What if, under the Temple Mount, the Knights uncovered ancient texts or heretical secrets about the early Church? Information that challenged the very foundations of Catholic doctrine. This could have been anything from alternative gospels to historical truths about the life of Jesus that the established church had suppressed. If the Templars held such dangerous truths, it would explain the shocking accusations of heresy leveled against them. It was not just a king desperate for money who wanted them destroyed, but a church desperate to protect its own narrative. Their treasure, then, becomes a triple mystery, a puzzle box with three possible contents: a fortune in gold, a collection of sacred relics, or a body of knowledge so powerful it could topple empires. The question of what happened to the Templar treasure has launched countless expeditions and fueled centuries of speculation. One of the most persistent theories points toward the misty highlands of Scotland. In the wake of the arrests, a fleet of Templar ships is said to have slipped away from their key Atlantic port at La Rochelle. Some believe these ships carried the Order's most vital assets north, to a land where King Philip's reach ended and the excommunicated King Robert the Bruce offered sanctuary. It is here, nestled in the Scottish countryside, that we find Rosslyn Chapel, built decades later by the Sinclair family, who had well-documented Templar ties. The chapel is a labyrinth of stone carved with enigmatic symbols. From depictions of maize, a new world plant, to the famous apprentice pillar, the entire structure seems to whisper of hidden secrets and guardianship, leading many to believe its crypts hold the Templars' sacred relics or their lost gold. Another compelling thread follows those same ships from La Rochelle, but charts a far more daring course across the Atlantic. Proponents of this theory argue the Templars, with their extensive naval experience and rumored knowledge of pre-Columbian voyages, could have transported their treasure to the New World. This idea finds its most famous anchor in the Oak Island Money Pit, a mysterious, booby-trapped shaft on a small Canadian island. For over 200 years, treasure hunters have been drawn to its complex flood tunnels and cryptic stone markers, seeing the hallmarks of Templar engineering. The persistent, yet so far futile, search for a legendary treasure deep within the pit continues to be linked to the Knights' vanished fleet, suggesting their fortune lies not in a Scottish chapel, but buried under a remote North American island. Yet the most pragmatic theory proposes that the greatest treasure was never something you could lock in a chest. The Templars' true, revolutionary wealth was their financial system itself, a network of credit, trust, and international commerce. When the order was dissolved, this intricate web did not vanish, it simply unraveled. Their vast land holdings were absorbed by rival orders like the Knights Hospitaller or seized by local nobility. Their financial records, the lifeblood of medieval kings, were inherited by other banking entities. The treasure, in this view, was never lost because it was never a single hidden hoard. It was a concept, a revolutionary way of moving value across the world, and its components slowly dissolved back into the economies of Europe, funding new ventures and new powers. The real mystery is not where a chest of gold is buried, but how the most advanced economic engine of its age was so completely scattered that we are still searching for its ghost. From 9 knights pledged to poverty, they built a financial empire that rivaled kingdoms. Their rise was as improbable as their fall was sudden, shattered by a king's greed on a single, infamous Friday the 13th. Yet the true mystery began after the arrests, when the heart of their wealth, their legendary treasure, simply vanished from history. Was it a hoard of gold whisked away by a fleet of ships, sacred relics hidden in a Scottish chapel, or dangerous knowledge that threatened the very foundations of the medieval world? The evidence points in all directions, and perhaps that is the most compelling answer of all. The real treasure of the Knights Templar is not a chest of coins or a golden cup, but the legacy of the mystery itself. For over 700 years, their story has refused to die, sparking real expeditions to remote islands, inspiring countless works of fiction, and fueling endless debate. It is a puzzle with no definitive solution, and that is what keeps us searching. So what do you believe became of the Templar fortune? Share your favorite theory in the comments below, and if you are captivated by history's greatest enigmas, be sure to subscribe for more deep dives into the past's most enduring secrets.